I never imagined that the worst nightmare of my life would begin in the very place that was supposed to be the most sacred, the delivery room at Northwestern Memorial Hospital, right in the heart of Chicago. Emily, my wife gripped my hand tightly, her knuckles turning white as wave after wave of contractions hit her. I, Daniel Parker. 32 years old, an IT engineer, was trembling with nervous anticipation. 9 months of preparation had led to this moment. I had pictured it 100 times holding my child, seeing his innocent eyes for the first time, but all those dreams shattered right in front of me. The first cry rang out. A boy. Noah, the name we had chosen since the 6th month. But I barely caught a glimpse of his tiny hand waving weakly inside the incubator before 2 nurses swiftly wheeled him away, their faces far more tense than I expected. "Where are you taking my son?" I shouted. "We need to run a few urgent tests in the NICU, just as a precaution." One nurse responded, her voice rushed but trying to sound calm. "What tests? Is there something wrong with him?" I tried to keep my voice steady, but my throat was already tightening. "Don't worry, sir. It's just standard procedure." She forced a smile, but the quick glance she exchanged with the attending physician made my heart sink. I could feel it in my gut. Something was being hidden from me. Emily lay there, drenched in sweat, but still managing a faint smile. "It's okay, honey. Don't make a scene. They're just being extra careful." Her words cut into me like a blade. How could she be so composed? Any normal mother would be anxious, panicked about her child. But she just lay there, as if everything was unfolding according to some prearranged script. I ran through every floor of the hospital. There was no record of Noah in the NICU. The administrative office couldn't confirm where he had been transferred. The only answer I kept hearing over and over: "We're still running tests. Please be patient." I stood, frozen, in the blinding white hallway. The fluorescent lights above flickering. The hospital intercom buzzed constantly, but to me it was all just a muffled, numbing noise. I wanted to scream, to smash everything around me, but all I could do was clench my fists, my fingernails digging so deep into my palms that I bled. When I returned to the room, I found Emily applying lotion to her arms. She was fixing her hair, as if preparing for a TV interview, not as someone who had just gone through a traumatic delivery. "Are you not worried at all?" I said, through gritted teeth. Emily paused for a second. The lotion bottle slipped from her hand and fell onto the bed. She quickly picked it up and forced a soft smile. "You're overthinking this. They're just running a few tests. This is the best hospital in Chicago, remember." But in that fleeting moment I noticed her fingers were trembling. Or was it just my imagination? A knock at the door broke the tension. A young nurse entered, holding a stack of paperwork. "Excuse me. Are you Daniel Parker? You're listed as the legal guardian of baby Noah." "Yes." "What is it?" "We just need to verify some insurance information and have you sign a few administrative forms before we can finalize Noah's medical records. Since his initial vitals were slightly unstable, we're expediting the paperwork." I took the stack of papers, my eyes scanning the text, but the words blurred together. My mind was spinning out of control. I signed it, hoping that completing this mountain of paperwork would somehow bring my son back to me. But deep down, I knew this wasn't just some routine documentation. After the nurse left, I quietly pulled my phone from my jacket pocket. I thought of Josh, my college buddy, now a cybersecurity engineer at a major firm in Seattle. He once joked, "If the FBI has a system they don't want hacked, let me take a look at it." I texted him urgently, "Josh, I need you. My newborn baby just vanished from the hospital. I think Emily's involved in something shady." Seconds later, my screen lit up. "Send me Emily's phone number. I'll pull everything I can within 24 hours. I looked over at Emily. She was leaning back against her pillow, gazing dreamily at the ceiling, a vague smile on her lips. "You should get some rest. You're exhausted," she said softly. She was right. I was exhausted. But maybe it was in that very moment when she told me to rest, I realized I couldn't afford to let my guard down. Not for a single second, because behind that perfect smile, something was being hidden. I couldn't sleep at all that night. Every cell in my brain screamed with suspicion. Emily drifted in and out of sleep, her eyes glancing at me with a strange, unfamiliar look. She knew I was suspicious. I knew she knew. But we both continued playing this suffocating silent game. At dawn, my phone buzzed. A text from Josh. Pulled a ton of data. "You ready?" My heart pounded. I quietly stepped out into the hospital hallway, finding an empty corner. "I'm here," I whispered. As I answered, Josh spoke quickly. "Emily's been using a fully encrypted messaging app, Signal, right? But I managed to recover some backups from a secondary server, thanks to periodic Google Photos backups you didn't even know about." I gasped. "Just tell me what you found." About 2 months ago, Emily started exchanging frequent messages with a burner number registered in Mexico. The first messages look like financial negotiation, big money. Then it gets weirder. Josh paused for a few seconds before reading slowly. "Everything's ready? The deal is set for Chicago. He'll fly in personally to inspect on the delivery date." I felt like my soul was being ripped apart. "A deal? Is she selling my son?" My voice cracked. Josh exhaled. "Let me finish. I traced the other guy's IP. He used a proxy network from some satellite company, but I still caught a few old Mexican IP addresses, cross-referenced them with underground forums. And guess who popped up? Don't tell me. Him, Hugo Ortega. International black market baby broker, Josh said under his breath. Interpol investigated him last year for a child abduction ring in Europe, but he slipped away. He brokers newborns to wealthy, infertile families across North America, Europe, and the Middle East. I collapsed into a plastic chair in the hallway, my chest tightening. 1,000 nightmarish scenarios raced through my mind. Emily's involved with that. I trembled. How could she? She loves this baby. Josh hesitated for a beat. "Daniel, are you sure Emily's ever been completely honest with you? I dug into her financial history too. She had massive hidden debts before marrying you, mostly from Las Vegas." "Gambling debts?" "About $250,000 in outstanding loan shark balances. And recently, Vegas loan sharks have been closing in hard." You get where this is going, right? It felt like someone had punched me in the chest. Everything I thought I knew was collapsing in an instant. Emily, the perfect, sweet wife I'd given up my Seattle job for to start a family here in Chicago, was drowning in debt to the mafia. And now she was selling our baby to pay them off. "No, Josh, I can't believe this." Josh's voice softened. "Daniel, there's one more thing. In Emily's Google Photos backup, I found screenshots of direct bank transfers to an account under the name Jose Mendez Ortega's personal bodyguard and right-hand man." I swallowed hard, my throat bone dry. This is way bigger than I ever imagined," I whispered, an unfamiliar surge of rage rising inside me. Josh cautioned me. "Listen to me. Don't do anything reckless. This isn't just a family matter anymore. This is federal organized crime. I'm trying to reach an old FBI contact at the Chicago field office. You may need federal protection if you want any chance of saving Noah." Footsteps echoed behind me in the hallway. I looked up quickly. Emily. She stood there with a soft, searching look. "What are you doing out here? Everything's fine now." I forced a smile. "Just calling my mum. She wanted an update on Noah." Emily walked closer, gently slipping her arm into mine. Her eyes shimmered with warmth, as if nothing in the world was wrong. "Please don't worry anymore. Okay, I'm sure everything's going to be fine. They'll bring him back to us soon. Those eyes, so beautiful and so cruel. Oh, In that moment, I knew with absolute certainty Noah was no longer in this hospital. And if I didn't act, I might never see my son again.
For the next few days, I pretended to stay calm in front of Emily. I kept taking care of her, kept making fake phone calls to my family, kept acting like a normal father worried about his child. But inside, I was a ticking time bomb. Josh kept feeding me layers of information, a dark web tightening around my family like a suffocating spider's nest. The middleman, Hugo Ortega, had close ties with the financial mafia in Las Vegas, the very people Emily had once borrowed money from. Specifically, Emily had taken loans from Rafael Cortez's crew, a notorious loan shark who specialized in using gambling debts to trap vulnerable young women, driving them into inescapable debt spirals. Josh sent me the full financial records from Emily's old accounts. My stomach twisted as I saw transactions stretching back more than 2 years before we got married. Dozens of high-interest loans from underground Vegas sources, adding up to nearly $250,000. I whispered into the phone, my throat tightening. "Emily, how long has she been in debt? Why didn't she ever tell me?" Josh answered slowly. "Maybe when she married you." Emily thought she could control it, but the debt kept piling up. Cortez turned the screws, and then Hugo Ortega stepped in with his final offer. I shut my eyes tight. My whole life, I had believed my wife was perfect, sweet, family-oriented, loving, and now I stood face to face with the ugly truth. The woman I married had planned to sell her own child. Josh continued, his voice tense. I finally made contact with an FBI agent, Sarah Klein, Chicago field office. She worked on the Ortega case 2 years ago, but without enough evidence, it was shelved. This might be our only shot to bring the whole network down. I gripped my phone tighter. "So, the FBI's getting involved?" "Yes, but you need to officially file a complaint before they can take action."
"And Daniel, you have to be ready for this. Emily will be investigated as part of the criminal ring." I sighed painfully. That was the part that tore me up the most. I wanted to save my son, wanted to destroy these monsters, but the price was handing over the very woman I once loved to federal prosecutors. Later that afternoon, when I returned to the hospital room, Emily was sitting on the bed, gently stroking the newborn hospital bracelet that had been returned, but Noah himself was still nowhere to be found. "Must be some administrative mix-up," she said softly. "They're still running a few extra tests, that's all." I quietly sat down beside her. My eyes darted briefly to her thumb. Her nail polish was chipping, her finger trembling ever so slightly. She was nervous. "Are you okay?" I asked gently. Emily looked up, forcing a faint smile. "Please don't worry anymore. Everything's going to be fine. We'll bring Noah home soon."
For the first time, I saw real fear in her eyes, not fear for Noah, but for whatever was closing in around her. Behind that forced smile, I could read the panic she was trying to hide. That very night, I had my first face-to-face meeting with FBI agent Sarah Klein at the Chicago field office. She was a sharp, no-nonsense woman in her early 40s, with short, cropped hair and piercing, intelligent eyes. I've been watching Ortega's network for over 2 years, but I've never been this close, Sarah began. "If what your friend Josh found is legit, we can reopen the entire case." "But Daniel," she paused, locking eyes with me. "How far are you willing to go?" I sat up straight, my voice hoarse, firm. "If you help me bring Noah home safe, I'll expose everything, even Emily." Sarah nodded slightly. "All right. From this moment on, you're officially a federal witness. But understand this, the deeper we go, the more dangerous it gets. Ortega isn't just a baby broker. Behind him is an entire transnational mafia network." I inhaled deeply. In my mind, all I could see was Noah's tiny hand waving inside that incubator. Even if I had to tear through hell itself, I would bring my son back. The next morning, the hospital finally delivered a message I never imagined hearing. We sincerely apologize for the confusion. According to the records, baby Noah has been temporarily transferred to an external pediatric facility for further observation. Transferred external facility. Why hadn't the parents been informed I wanted to lose my mind? But I swallowed my rage and kept my calm facade. Emily sat beside me, gently stroking the newborn bracelet as if trying to soothe herself. See, it was just an administrative mix-up. Our baby's safe. She forced a smile, but it looked increasingly twisted and terrifying. That evening, back at our small apartment in Northside Chicago, I decided it was time to confront her head-on. Emily had just stepped out of the bathroom, her hair still damp, wearing that purple satin nightgown she always chose when she wanted to make up after our arguments. But this time, I wasn't craving anything but the truth. Emily.
I stood blocking the bedroom door. "What's wrong, honey?" she asked innocently, wrapping her arms around my neck and pressing her body close. I gently pushed her back and locked eyes with her. "We need to talk. About Noah." Her face stiffened. She forced a hollow laugh. "You're overthinking again. I told you stop lying." My voice dropped low. "I know everything. Emily, the Vegas debts, Ortega, the encrypted messages, the wire transfers. You sold our baby to pay off your mafia debts." She froze. A few seconds of dead silence passed. I could hear my own ragged breathing. Then Emily stepped back, her expression changing completely. Gone was the sweet, loving woman. In her place stood someone cold, sharp, unrecognizable. "You've been spying on me." Her voice was hoarse, barely containing her anger. "I didn't need to spy. You left too many trails." My tone was icy. "Josh found everything." She stared at me, then burst into a bitter laugh.
"So what you think the FBI's going to help you? Ortega has the best lawyers money can buy. The Vegas Mafia will make all of this disappear like it never happened. And you're just a dumb IT guy who thinks you can save a baby with a few computer hacks." I clenched my fists, forcing my voice to stay steady. "You sold your own child. Emily, the baby we waited months for. How could you do something so vile?" Her smile twisted, her eyes cold as steel. "What did you expect? Do you have $250,000 lying around to save me when the Mafia came after me? Do you know what Rafael Cortez threatened to do when I missed payments? They would have killed me. Killed you. Ortega was the only way out." Her voice cracked, tears welling up. "I didn't want to lose everything. I'm a victim too. Daniel, don't play saint with me." I choked. For a brief moment, I caught a glimpse of genuine terror in her eyes. Maybe, deep down, she had once hoped for another way out. But Emily had gone too far. There was no turning back. "The feds are involved," I whispered. "The FBI knows everything. You still have a chance to cooperate, Emily. Otherwise, when this blows up, you won't just lose your freedom. You'll lose your entire future." Emily stood there, trembling, lips quivering. She searched my eyes for a flicker of hope, but shook her head. "Ortega won't spare me. If I betray him, I'm as good as dead." I stepped closer, gently gripping her shoulders. "The FBI can protect you, but only if you start cooperating now." Tears streamed down her face, but she still shook her head. "You don't understand. They have people inside Chicago's government. If I flip, we're all dead," I whispered firmly. "No, Emily, if you keep silent, Noah will be the first to die." She froze, her knees buckled, and she collapsed onto the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. That night, while Emily drowned in her tears, I quietly called Agent Sarah. "She's ready, but we have to move fast. Ortega could suspect something any moment." Sarah responded firmly. "We're ready. The next step is setting the trap for Ortega's entire network." "But Daniel, you'll have to go all the way with us." I glanced at Emily, curled up on the cold hardwood floor, her tears soaking into the planks all the way. This nightmare was far from over. 3 days later, I stepped into the most dangerous game of my life. Sarah and the Federal Task Force launched a full-scale covert operation. We were moved into a safe house on the outskirts of Chicago under armed federal protection. Emily was placed into the Witness Protection Program. Meanwhile, Sarah focused all resources on tracking Ortega. He was extremely careful, shielded by layers of bodyguards and financial proxies. But thanks to the data Josh uncovered, the FBI identified a critical lead. Ortega was preparing to move a major shipment across the Mexican border, including Noah. We believe he's planning the final exchange in El Paso, Texas, before transferring the infants into the international pipeline from the border. Sarah briefed the tactical team. This is our one shot to dismantle the entire network. I stared at the large screen displaying the network diagram. Dozens of arrows connected Chicago, Vegas, Mexico, and the Middle East. Emily sat beside me, her head bowed, whispering softly, "Ortega always keeps Noah at the final holding point. He said he wanted to make sure the buyer agreed on the final price before delivering him." I clenched my fists so tightly my nails dug into my flesh. The thought of some bastard inspecting my baby like merchandise made my blood boil. The plan unfolded like a military operation. Team 1 track Ortega in El Paso and wait for the transaction signal. Team 2 intercept the infant transport route across the border. Team 3 secure Emily and me at the safe house in case of Vegas mafia retaliation. The night before the mission, I couldn't sleep. I sat alone in the living room, staring at the ultrasound photo of Noah that Emily once kept in her wallet. The tiny hand raised like a wave in that first image had become my lifeline. Sarah sat down beside me, her voice calm but razor-sharp. "Daniel, I need you strong. Tomorrow will get very dirty. Ortega won't go down easily. Just get me to Noah. After that, I don't care what happens," I whispered, eyes locked on the photo. El Paso, Texas. 2 days later, we flew in on a secure FBI transport directly to the operation base. Outside, the border city baked under a burning sun, tense like a loaded gun. I wore a thin, bulletproof vest Sarah had prepared, my heart pounding like I was marching into war. Surveillance teams spotted Ortega and his bodyguard, Jose Mendez, arriving at an abandoned warehouse near the border, previously shut down after multiple cartel raids. Through hidden cameras, I saw Ortega, short, stocky, his scarred round face and narrow, calculating eyes, step out of a black armored SUV. In his hand was a briefcase containing the newborn transfer contracts. The most gut-wrenching moment was when he opened part of a glass chamber. Inside were 3 sleeping infants, wrapped in pristine white blankets. Among them, I immediately recognized Noah. Though his tiny face was only 3 weeks old, how could I ever mistake my own son? My vision blurred instantly. Sarah gripped my shoulder, whispering, "We move on the signal. Stay calm. Daniel." The moment the breach team signaled, FBI agents stormed in from every direction. Gunfire erupted. Ortega tried to bolt through the rear exit but was quickly subdued. Jose Mendez drew his weapon but was shot dead on the spot by agents. I sprinted toward the glass chamber, tears streaming uncontrollably. Medical teams rushed behind me. My hands trembled as I pulled back the white blanket covering that precious little face. "Noah. Noah," I whispered. The baby's eyes fluttered open. His tiny hand reached out, grasping my finger tightly. In that moment, the entire world disappeared. He was alive. He was here, behind me. Sarah allowed herself a rare, faint smile after the grueling mission. "We've got everything. Ortega's finished. Daniel, Noah's safe." But I knew this wasn't over. Out there, Rafael Cortez in Vegas surely wouldn't sit idle after losing the most critical link in his empire, Emily. The El Paso operation was a resounding success. The American media exploded with headlines: "International baby trafficking network dismantled in Texas, Kingpin Ortega arrested, exposes Las Vegas mafia ties." But for me, this was far from over, because I knew Rafael Cortez would not let this go. Emily was immediately placed into witness protection when we returned to Chicago, but I still couldn't sleep. At any moment, Cortez's men could come after her. I stood by the window of the safe house, staring out at the Chicago night, nerves burning like wildfire. Sarah stepped in, gently placing her hand on my shoulder. Ortega's confessed, and Emily has officially signed on as a cooperating witness. She's provided enough evidence to indict Rafael Cortez. I nodded, my throat tightening. Emily's sentence will be reduced. Sarah continued. She chose to stand on the side of justice, though a bit late. I said nothing.
Inside me, emotions tangled anger, pity, regret for the woman who had once been my wife. A few days later, just as I feared, the hit order came. It happened in the underground parking lot of the secured compound. I was carrying Noah, guiding Emily swiftly to the car under escort by 2 federal agents. A black van screeched out from a hidden corner. The sliding door flew open, 2 masked gunmen with automatic weapons aimed directly at us. Thup, 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 suppressed gunshots echoed through the garage. Federal agents screamed, slamming Emily and me to the concrete floor. I clutched Noah to my chest, as if holding my entire existence in my arms. A bullet grazed my upper arm, burning like fire. I gritted my teeth, blood dripping, but I never loosened my grip on my son. The tactical team responded instantly. One of the assassins was taken down immediately. The other fled, but was pinned against the wall by an armored FBI vehicle. Sarah rushed over and pulled me up. Daniel,
Are you okay? I nodded, my arm throbbing. But Noah was safe in my arms. Emily collapsed to the ground, her whole body shaking, her tear-filled eyes locked onto mine like a drowning person reaching for one final lifeline. I'm sorry, she whispered. I looked directly into her eyes. For the first time in a very long while. It's too late, Emily. But at least, this time you stood on the right side. After the failed assassination, the FBI was forced to move faster. A rapid strike was launched in Las Vegas. Within 72 hours, Rafael Cortez and over 20 of his top lieutenants were arrested. The entire underground financial network in Vegas trembled. The secret accounts, illegal credit rackets, fake passports all exposed. A special FBI press conference echoed from the Chicago headquarters. The largest international baby trafficking and money laundering operation of the decade had been dismantled. Sarah stood beside me under the blinding flash of dozens of cameras. We're done. Daniel. Noah's safe. Their whole system has collapsed. I held my son close, feeling his tiny breaths rise and fall against my chest. But I knew, though justice had been served, the scars left inside me, inside Noah and inside Emily, would never fully heal. That night, as the safe house finally settled into silence after weeks of chaos, Emily whispered, as I was about to carry Noah to bed, Daniel, if there's a next life, I only wish I could be a real mother. I didn't answer. I stared at her for a long time, the woman I once loved, and vowed to spend my life with, and who had sold our child. Finally, I spoke softly. Too bad. You chose the wrong life this time. Emily broke down, this time truly crying for the first time since it all fell apart. 3 months later, the federal trial officially opened in Chicago. The entire nation's media converged on the explosive case, largest international baby trafficking ring of the decade, exposed Las Vegas financial mafia, crushed the sinful empire of Ortega Cortez and their sealed network. The courtroom was packed. Reporters lined the hallways, shoulder to shoulder. I sat in the front row, holding Noah, who had just started babbling and smiling for the first time. In front of me, Ortega sat in handcuffs, his swollen face bearing the marks of countless interrogations. Rafael Cortez sat beside him, pale, though his eyes still burned with hatred. Then Emily was brought in. She wore a pale grey suit, her face drawn and colourless after weeks in protected custody. Her eyes met mine briefly before she quickly looked down. The prosecutor stood and began reading the lengthy list of charges: international baby trafficking, cross-border child abduction, organized money laundering, federal witness intimidation, commercial financial fraud, manipulation of Las Vegas credit syndicates. Each charge landed like a hammer blow. The defense could barely mount any argument. The evidence gathered by the FBI, Emily's testimony, Josh's hacked dark web data, the covert El Paso footage cut through every defense like a blade. The prosecutor turned toward Emily, his tone resolute. Defendant Emily Parker voluntarily cooperated with federal investigators from an early stage, providing crucial evidence that dismantled the entire criminal network. Considering her full cooperation and the life-threatening pressure from the mafia, the prosecution recommends leniency. The room went dead silent as the judge read the verdict: Richard Ortega, life in federal prison without parole. Rafael Cortez, 35 years in federal prison. Emily Parker, 7 years in federal prison, eligible for parole after 4 years with continued witness protection supervision. The final gavel strike echoed as reporters erupted outside, cameras flashing wildly. But I simply lowered my head, gazing at Noah, his innocent eyes, blissfully unaware that he had once been the center of a living hell. That evening, I was allowed to meet Emily one final time before she was transferred to federal prison in Minnesota. We sat in the visitation room, separated by glass. Emily stared at me for a long moment, her eyes red but raw with genuine emotion, no longer pretending. "Daniel," she whispered, "I'm sorry. There aren't enough words to undo what I've done." I silently placed my hand against the glass. Noah fast asleep in my arms. "The price you pay is losing the child you once betrayed." Her tears spilled. I don't deserve to be a mother." My voice cracked. "No. You deserve to pay. But Noah still has the right to know who his mother is. One day, when he's old enough, I'll tell him everything. But not now." Emily broke down, sobbing into her hands. She knew that was her bitter punishment, to live with her guilt, cut off from her own flesh and blood, 5 years later. Noah was now a bright, curious boy who loved drawing and was obsessed with trains. I had moved us out to suburban Seattle, far from all the shadows of Chicago, Las Vegas, and El Paso. Josh visited from time to time, and he and Noah even formed their little junior hacker club, while I could only stand back and shake my head, smiling. The FBI officially closed the case after Rafael Cortez died of liver cancer in prison. Ortega's network was permanently erased from America's criminal map. Each night, before putting Noah to bed, I would ask myself if I hadn't stayed alert that very first moment in that hospital, would I have ever seen my son again? And every night, I whispered into his ear, "No matter what happens, Noah, I'll always protect you. Always." Noah smiled in his dreams, blissfully unaware that once he nearly became a commodity in the hands of monsters. As for Emily, she remained behind bars. I no longer hated her, but I had nothing left to mourn. In the end, justice always finds its way. Slow, but exact.